There comes a moment in every person's life when everything feels frozen. Not because the world has stopped, but because you have. You wake up, but the weight on your chest is heavier than the alarm clock. You see the road ahead, but your feet don't move. You know the dream, the vision, the calling burning somewhere inside you, but the distance between where you are and where you want to be feels endless. That is the moment that breaks most people. Not because they're weak, but because being stuck is the most dangerous prison of all. It has no walls, no guards, no locks, just silence. And in that silence, dreams die quietly. But there is another kind of person, the one who moves when it's hard. The one who acts when they don't feel ready. The one who forces themselves forward not because they feel strong, but because they refuse to stay stuck. These are the people who build legacies. These are the people who change everything. Action is not born from comfort. Action is born from decision. And Napoleon Hill understood this more than anyone. He didn't build a philosophy around luck. He built a blueprint around action, around forcing the human spirit to rise when everything inside screams to sit down. He taught that motion creates momentum, and momentum creates power. You have to understand something about being stuck. It's not a state of reality. It's a state of mind. It whispers lies into your head. You're not ready. You can't do it. You're too tired. It's too late. But here's the brutal truth. No one who ever changed the world felt ready. Thomas Edison didn't wait for permission to invent. Henry Ford didn't wait for approval to revolutionize transportation. Walt Disney didn't wait until the world believed in his dreams. They moved, and their movement shook the world awake. Action is the great disruptor of fear. The moment you act, the power of your doubts begins to fade. It's like standing in a dark room. If you stand still, the darkness wraps around you. But if you take one step, just one, suddenly you realize the darkness was never solid. It was only waiting to be walked through. The truth is, life will never give you a perfect moment. There will always be something unfinished, something uncertain, something uncomfortable. If you wait until you feel ready, you'll die waiting. Power belongs to those who act before the feeling comes. Because courage isn't the absence of fear, it's movement in spite of it. Think of Abraham Lincoln standing before a divided nation. Do you think he felt ready to lead a country into war? No, but he acted. Think of Andrew Carnegie, a poor boy who walked into steel mills not with confidence, but with an unstoppable decision to move. Think of Henry Ford, mocked by experts who said the world didn't need cars. They didn't wait for the world to clear a path. They built their own road with their footsteps. When you're stuck, your mind will try to convince you that you need to figure out every step before taking the first one. But this is the lie that kills more dreams than failure ever could. You don't need to see the entire staircase to climb it. You just need to lift your foot. You don't need to control the storm. You just need to take the first swing at the wind. The act of moving changes everything. But make no mistake, it won't be easy. The hardest moment is not the third step or the 10th. It's the first. Because the first step has to crush your fear. The first step has to silence the voice of doubt. The first step has to kill the illusion that staying still is safer than moving forward. That's why most never take it. They drown not because the river is too deep, but because they never learn to move their arms. Here's what Napoleon Hill taught that so many forget. Action comes before motivation, not after. Motivation is not a lightning bolt. It's a spark created by friction, by movement, by pushing, by doing. If you wait to feel inspired to act, you will be waiting for the rest of your life. But if you act first, inspiration grows like fire behind you. This is why forcing yourself to act is not weakness. It's strength in its purest form. When you drag yourself out of bed and take the step anyway, you're rewriting the code of your own mind. You're teaching your brain a new language. I don't need to feel ready. I just need to move. Every great success story began with a moment that looked like nothing. A single step, a single decision, a single moment where someone chose motion over hesitation. That's what separates dreamers from builders. Dreamers talk about the life they want. Builders pick up the hammer. You don't need to build the whole empire in a day. You need to begin. The weight of hesitation will always feel heavier than the weight of movement. Waiting drains you. Acting empowers you. Think about it. A car stuck in mud doesn't escape by waiting for the perfect push. It escapes because the driver floors the pedal and refuses to stop. That wheel spinning might not look like progress at first, but then suddenly it catches. And when it catches, momentum takes over. That's your life. That's your dream. Momentum doesn't come from hoping. It comes from moving. The key is to stop negotiating with your emotions. Stop asking your feelings for permission to build your future. They'll lie to you. They'll tell you to wait. They'll whisper that it's safer to do nothing. But deep down, you already know the truth. Doing nothing is the slowest form of death. Your purpose is waiting on the other side of discomfort. You must become the kind of person who moves even when they don't feel like it. Especially when they don't feel like it. You must build a habit of action so strong that hesitation dies before it can take root. That's not something you're born with. That's something you build. And when you build it, it becomes a force. An engine that pulls you through fear, doubt, uncertainty, and failure. This is the mindset that builds giants. This is how ordinary people rise to extraordinary power. Not because they were fearless, but because they moved anyway. Think of Edison in his dark workshop after 1,000 failed experiments. He didn't wait to feel ready for the next one. He kept moving. Think of Carnegie climbing through a brutal industry without a map. Think of Disney bankrupt and broken but sketching anyway. They all shared one truth. Action is the cure for being stuck. The walls around your dreams aren't real. They're built out of hesitation, fear, and excuses. And walls like that can be broken with one decision, one step. The world doesn't belong to the one who waits. It belongs to the one who moves, even when they don't know how the story will end. Because movement creates answers that waiting never will. You have to understand something that most people never learn in their entire lifetime. It's not talent that creates greatness. It's not luck. It's not even opportunity. It's the ability to move when every fiber of your being wants to stay still. When your mind whispers, "Not today." When your heart says, "I'm not ready." When the world looks too big, too loud, too far away. In those exact moments, the gap between ordinary and extraordinary is forged. It's the moment where average people freeze, and uncommon people take the step. That step, not a perfect plan, not a grand gesture, but that single, gritty, defiant step changes everything. We love to romanticize success stories. We look at the skyscrapers of other people's achievements and forget that they all began with one brick placed on a cold, uncertain morning. Napoleon Hill called it definiteness of purpose combined with burning desire. But what he really understood was this: desire without action is nothing more than a slow death. Desire that burns must turn into motion or it devours you from the inside. You can spend your entire life dreaming, but until you get up and force your hands to build, force your legs to walk, force your voice to speak, those dreams will remain just that, ghosts floating in your mind. When you feel stuck, it's not that you lack direction. It's that your fear has built walls around the path you already know you must take. And here's the truth that no one likes to say out loud. No one is coming to push you. No one is going to save you. No one is going to give you permission to rise. It's on you. It always has been. Every empire in history was built on a single moment where someone decided, "I will no longer stand still." Andrew Carnegie didn't wait for someone to crown him. Henry Ford didn't ask for someone to hand him the road. Thomas Edison didn't wait for perfect conditions to invent light. They acted in the middle of darkness. You have to become your own ignition switch. Action is not something you feel like doing. Action is something you command of yourself. You must look your hesitation in the face and say, "Move anyway," because once you do, something magical happens. Motion changes your chemistry. It shifts your energy. It breaks the fog that was convincing you it was a wall. You begin to realize that being stuck was never a permanent state. It was just a doorway waiting to be kicked open. That first push is always the hardest. Not the second or third step, the first one. The one that happens when everything inside you is screaming to stop. The one that forces your feet to move while your fear claws at your ankles. That's the moment where ordinary lives stay small and powerful lives are born. Walt Disney didn't create a kingdom because he was fearless. He built it because he acted through fear. He forced himself to draw the dream when the world called him crazy. And that is where discipline enters. Discipline isn't punishment. Discipline is self-respect. It's proof to yourself that your word means something. When you say, "I will act," and then follow through, even when you don't feel like it, you are building a bond with yourself that cannot be broken. Most people fail not because they're incapable, but because they've broken too many promises to themselves. They've trained their minds to accept hesitation as normal. But the few who win, the few who build empires, they've trained their minds to act whether they feel like it or not. You cannot wait for emotion. Emotions are like weather, they change by the hour. If your dreams depend on a sunny day, you will never build anything that lasts. But discipline, the relentless hammer of action, can build a fortress in the middle of a storm. Every day you choose action over hesitation, you're forging steel in your soul. And one day, when others are still waiting for motivation, you'll already be standing on the empire you built. Think of Abraham Lincoln, walking through sleepless nights with the weight of a nation on his shoulders. He didn't wait for the feeling to be right. He acted when everything was wrong. Think of Edison failing 1,000 times. He didn't wait for confidence to return before trying again. He acted his way back to power. That is the secret almost no one understands. Confidence is born from action, not the other way around. You don't act because you're confident. You become confident because you act. Fear doesn't disappear when you move, but it loses its grip. It becomes smaller, weaker. Your action becomes louder than your fear. And soon, your fear starts following you instead of leading you. Every great achievement in history was built on this reversal. The fear that once controlled you becomes fuel that pushes you forward. Hesitation is a thief. It steals time, potential, years. It whispers soft lies. Maybe tomorrow. Maybe next week. Maybe after this. But tomorrow is a graveyard where dreams go to die. The ones who rise are those who force themselves to move now. Not when they're ready. Not when it's convenient. Now. Because the moment you delay, your doubt gets stronger. And the moment you act, your doubt gets quieter. It's a simple equation, brutal but true. Either you control your hesitation, or your hesitation controls your life. If you let it win today, it will grow stronger tomorrow. But if you crush it today with one act of movement, you weaken it forever. This is how discipline compounds like interest. Every time you force yourself forward, you're not just moving, you're training your spirit to obey you instead of your fears. This is the mindset that builds unstoppable people. It's what turns the ordinary into the extraordinary. The ones who wait become spectators. The ones who act become architects. You must become your own architect. Because the life you want will not be handed to you. It must be built with motion, with grit, with defiance, with relentless forward pressure. And make no mistake, no one will clap for you at the beginning. No one will cheer when you take that first step. They'll doubt you. They'll laugh. They'll misunderstand. But that's the price of greatness. The applause comes later, long after the quiet work. The world doesn't celebrate hesitation. It celebrates those who move. Your power lies not in how you feel but in what you do. Get up. Move forward. Force the action. Because every second you delay, your dream grows a little colder. And every second you act, the world bends just a little closer to your will. Every time you push yourself to act when you least want to, you're not just completing a task, you're rewriting the architecture of your identity. You're telling your mind, I am the kind of person who moves forward, no matter what. That sentence is not just a thought. It's a weapon. It's the seed of transformation. People often think greatness is one grand decision, one dramatic moment that changes everything. But it's not. Greatness is hundreds of quiet, private wars you win against yourself. It's the thousands of moments when no one is watching, when you feel stuck, tired, invisible, defeated, and you still act anyway. The loudest victories don't happen on the world's stage. They happen in the silence of your own mind. In that moment when the easy road whispers in your ear, and you take the hard one instead. In that moment when staying still feels safe, and you choose to move into the unknown. That's where legends are born. That's where people who change the world are forged. Not in comfort, but in pressure. Not in applause, but in resistance. This is the essence of what Napoleon Hill tried to give to the world. He didn't teach people how to wait for perfect conditions. He taught them to create them through action. He didn't write about sitting around waiting for inspiration to strike. He wrote about planting your feet on the ground, locking your jaw, and moving with purpose long before inspiration ever arrives. Because inspiration is not the spark. It's the flame that grows after you strike the match. There will be days when the weight on your chest feels unbearable. Days when fear whispers, "What if it doesn't work?" Days when doubt digs its claws into your mind. But those are the exact days that shape your destiny. The days you don't feel like it are the most important ones of all. Because if you only act when it's easy, your dreams will remain trapped in the cage of your moods. If you only build when you feel like building, your foundation will always be weak. It's the act of forcing movement through resistance that builds unshakable strength. Look at history. Thomas Edison didn't invent the light bulb on a wave of motivation. He invented it through thousands of sleepless nights, thousands of failures, thousands of forced actions that no one ever saw. Henry Ford didn't revolutionize transportation because it was easy or because people believed in him. Most of them didn't. He did it because he pushed through every no, every doubt, every locked door, forcing momentum until the world had no choice but to follow. Andrew Carnegie was not born with steel in his hands. He forced his way through poverty and hardship until the steel industry bent to his vision. These people didn't wait for a miracle. They were the miracle. And what made them different wasn't magic. It was movement. Relentless, deliberate, disciplined movement. When you force yourself to act, even in the smallest way, you break the chains of inertia. Inertia is what keeps most people trapped in the same place for years, convincing themselves they're just waiting for the right time. The right time does not exist. The only time that matters is now. And every act of forced movement is a strike against that invisible prison. It's a crack in the wall. 1 step becomes 2. 2 steps become 10. 10 steps become unstoppable momentum. The thing about momentum is that it changes your entire relationship with fear. At the beginning, fear stands in front of you like a wall. But once you start moving, fear stops being the wall and becomes the floor you walk on. It never disappears. It just changes its shape. You stop fighting it and you start walking through it. And with every step, your confidence grows not because someone gave it to you, but because you earned it. When you act, the world responds differently. Doors that once looked locked begin to open. Opportunities that seemed distant begin to appear. People who once ignored you begin to pay attention. But none of this happens without the first push. The world doesn't give momentum to those who wait. It gives momentum to those who take it. You will not always see the results right away. That's where most people quit. They act for a day, a week, maybe a month, and when the world doesn't hand them the result they imagined, they crawl back into hesitation. But those who rise know something others don't. Forced action isn't about instant reward. It's about building a force so strong that the world eventually bends to it. Walt Disney faced bankruptcy more than once. He acted anyway. Abraham Lincoln lost election after election. He acted anyway. The most powerful people on earth are those who don't require external proof to keep moving. They move because they've made a promise to themselves that they will not stop. There is something sacred about keeping that promise. Every time you move forward through your doubt, your brain learns a new truth. I can trust myself. And when you can trust yourself, nothing and no one can break you. It's not the size of the step that matters. It's the refusal to stay stuck. So when you feel stuck, when your mind tells you can't, when your body feels heavy and the world seems far away, that's when you whisper to yourself the words that have built empires. Move anyway. Don't negotiate. Don't analyze. Don't wait for the perfect feeling. Move anyway, because the universe doesn't reward hesitation. It rewards momentum. Every morning you wake up with 2 choices: to stay where you are or to build who you're meant to become. And the person you become isn't built in the moments when it's easy. It's built in the moments when it's hard. It's built in the dark, in the quiet, when no one is watching. The world will only see the result. But you will know the truth, that the empire they admire was built on the foundation of thousands of forced steps. One day, those steps will become your strength. The habit of action will be so deeply wired into your soul that hesitation will have no room to live. The resistance that once crushed you will become the fire that drives you. And you'll look back at the days when you wanted to quit and smile, because those were the days that made you unstoppable. This is the power Napoleon Hill wanted the world to understand. It's not just about thinking and dreaming. It's about forcing movement even when your soul feels heavy. It's about breaking your own inertia. It's about being the architect of your destiny, one deliberate step at a time. So the next time you feel stuck, don't wait. Don't doubt. Don't explain. Move. And when your mind whispers, "But I'm not ready," answer it with the only thing that truly matters: action. Because nothing will ever shape your life more than what you do when it's hardest to move. You have to understand, forcing yourself to act isn't just about getting through a single hard day. It's about building a new identity, one that no longer bows to hesitation. Every time you push forward through resistance, you're building muscle that others can't see. Not the kind you wear on your body, but the kind forged in the mind, in the gut, in the soul. This kind of strength doesn't shout. It doesn't boast. It walks through walls silently, and the world only realizes its power once it's already too late to stop it. Hesitation is like rust. Starts small, invisible, soft. But if you let it stay long enough, it spreads and eats away at your ambition. You wake up one morning and wonder how years disappeared while your dreams stayed stuck at the starting line. But here's the truth that separates the powerful from the passive. Rust only grows on what isn't moving. And the moment you start moving, it falls off. Momentum cleans what fear tried to corrode. That's why you must act. Even when your hands are shaking. Even when your heart is pounding. Even when the future isn't clear. Especially then. There is a brutal but liberating truth that Napoleon Hill repeated again and again. You don't have to feel ready to win. You just have to act like someone who refuses to lose. Readiness is an illusion. It's a story your fear tells you to keep you safe. But safety has never built greatness. Every person who ever achieved something extraordinary started before they were ready. Henry Ford didn't wait for a perfect blueprint. He built. Thomas Edison didn't wait for the right conditions. He created them. Andrew Carnegie didn't wait for approval. He forged his way forward through disbelief. You may think you need confidence to act. You don't. Confidence is born from movement, not the other way around. At the start, you don't need to be sure, you need to be stubborn. You need to decide that even if the road is unclear, your feet will keep walking until it becomes visible. Because every step you take lights the path a little more. Every decision to act chips away at the wall in front of you. Every time you choose movement over hesitation, you become less of the person who waits and more of the person who builds. Action doesn't just move the world around you, it rewires the world inside you. It changes your chemistry, your posture, the way you carry yourself. The first time you act against fear, your brain trembles. The second time, it learns. The third time, it bows. Before long, your default reaction to resistance isn't to freeze, it's to move. That is the moment when your life changes forever. Because hesitation will still knock at your door, but it will no longer be allowed inside. And the truth is, you won't always see the results immediately. The most important actions are often invisible at first. Like a seed under the soil. You water it, care for it, fight to keep it alive, but for weeks, maybe months, nothing seems to happen. That's where most people quit. But the few who keep acting, those who keep forcing themselves to show up even when the soil looks dead, are the ones who one day stand under the shade of a tree that everyone else thought would never grow. Your consistency in action is what builds your breakthrough. This is the power of forcing yourself forward. Not just once, not twice, but over and over again until it's no longer something you have to force, because it has become who you are. When others freeze, you move. When others stall, you adapt. When others crumble under the weight of fear, you've already taken the next step. The future doesn't belong to those who wait for permission. It belongs to those who take it. When Walt Disney was told he didn't have the imagination to build his empire, he didn't spend months debating. He didn't build a perfect plan. He moved. He drew. He built brick by brick until the world had to see what he saw. When Abraham Lincoln faced failure after failure, loss after loss, he didn't surrender to despair. He forced himself forward until the world finally bent to his persistence. Greatness is never given. It's taken by those who refuse to stay stuck. And here's the paradox of it all. The first steps are the heaviest. But the more you force yourself to act, the lighter the load becomes. At first, discipline feels like dragging a mountain. Later, it feels like wind at your back. Because your brain starts to follow your command, not your hesitation. Your body starts to trust your decisions. Your soul starts to align with your purpose. That's when action becomes instinct. That's when movement becomes your language. Most people spend their lives waiting for the perfect time to start. They tell themselves they'll act when they're confident, when the fear goes away, when the stars align. But the ones who actually win are the ones who start when everything is still uncertain. They build while they bleed. They act while they doubt. And because of that, the world remembers their names while the rest are lost in the noise. It is in those moments of self-resistance, those brutal seconds where your mind begs you to stop, that you have to speak louder than your fear. Not with excuses, not with hesitation, but with action. Because hesitation listens to words. Fear listens to movement. Every time you act, fear loses a little more power. This is why Hill's message has echoed through generations. Because the formula doesn't change. Dreams are free. Action is the price. It's not about being the smartest in the room. It's about being the one who moves while everyone else is still talking. It's about being the one who climbs the mountain while others are still staring at the map. It's about being the one who builds the life others only wish for. You want to feel alive again? You want to break the cycle of feeling stuck? Then stop waiting. Stand up. Push forward. Even if your hands shake. Even if your voice trembles. Even if your path is hidden in the fog. Move. Because once you take that first step, your life stops being a wish and starts becoming a story worth telling. And years from now, when others ask how you did it, you won't talk about waiting for motivation. You'll tell them the truth. You'll tell them that when it was hard, when it was terrifying, when it was silent, you forced yourself to move. And that changed everything.